Time to talk Formula One on this edition of the KTM Summer Grill. We were delighted that our next guest could join us for last year's edition, and he's come back for a longer chat this year, which we're thrilled about. Also with us is Matt Koch, the Formula One editor for Speed Cafe, but on the line, Zak Brown, McLaren CEO. Welcome. It's great to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Good to be here.
Hey, how pleased were you with 2023? The turnaround was remarkable, Zak, in many respects, and the way that the year basically ended was superb.
Yeah, it was turned out to be a great year. Started not so well. Don't think I want to repeat that. That was a little too exciting, but second half of the year, Austria onwards, the team did a fantastic job fixing our car and giving us what ended up being the second fastest car the second half of the year. So if we can string that together for a full season, it'll be quite enjoyable next year.
Zak, what do you put that change down to? Because fundamentally, it's the same team as it was that started the year. It's the same people who drew the car at the start of the year that drew the upgrades. You've got the same drivers. The wind tunnel and those sorts of things have come on too late. What's the change been down to in particular?
Leadership and that of Andrea Stella. And of course, his whole team. It's not just one person, but someone needs to set the direction, the tone, the work ethic, the focus, the goal setting. And Andrea has done a wonderful job. As you've said, it's the same people that gave us our car in Austria. They gave us our car in Bahrain. But what I can tell you is the people in Austria, that was a different team. And Andrea just did a wonderful job setting goals, setting direction, bringing clarity, leading by example. And it just goes to show if you've got strong leadership, what you can get out of people. And if you have not so strong leadership that people lack focus or direction or not sure where to go, and you put forward a suboptimal result. So I think it's again, it's a lot of people behind Andrea Stella, but it starts with him.
Lots of people watching the grill will be interested on your take of Oscar Piastri's year. I mean, what a rookie season he enjoyed. You've talked about him having kind of the right stuff to be a future world champion, haven't you?
Yeah, he's been unbelievable. We knew he was mega fast, but with any rookie, especially one that took a year off, so you think there'd be some rust there. I didn't see any rust, or he rinsed it off pretty quickly. And I think what was most impressive about him was his patience, his attitude, his technical ability, and his build up to a weekend. I think a lot of young drivers try and win Friday, and they end up crashing, and then you're on your back foot all weekend. And Oscar was one session at a time, knew it didn't count until Q3 in qualifying. So he would experiment, he would learn, he would listen, he would talk to Lando, he would look at data. Sometimes he was there on Friday. Sometimes, Monaco, he was a half a second off. Come qualifying, he was right there. And that was impressive to have a driver with that type of maturity of building into a weekend. His racecraft is getting stronger and stronger, which is a hard part with the lack of experience. These tires are tricky to manage over a race, and he just built into the weekends wonderfully.
Zak, you mentioned Lando there. He's a high quality young driver. He's not even 25 yet himself, and yet he's almost a veteran of Formula One. How have you seen Lando change this year with Oscar? Is Oscar started pushing Lando on a little bit? Lando sort of suggested that he has been.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think it's great. Lando was kind of unchallenged for the most part the last couple of years. And I think even though drivers always drive to the best of their ability, we know if you have a teammate who's pushing you, you just get a little bit more without even necessarily, trying. It just happens. So I think the fact that Oscar has been so close has benefited Lando. They also have a very similar feel for the car. So I think in addition to just driving faster and harder, I think they quite complement each other. When you listen to them in the debriefs, they kind of say the same stuff. So that's also helped the engineers and the designers pick a direction versus, one driver saying he has understeer and another driver saying he has oversteer. And then you've got some engineers that are, scratching their head on which way to go.
Does that create an interesting challenge as you go forward? Because the beauty is you've got two great fast drivers, but at the same time, maintaining or looking after those competitive instincts must be a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's something that we're well aware of. It's something that I think we're particularly good at. That's an area that Andrea and I chat about all the time. I very much enjoy working with the drivers. I think that's, if you look at kind of the McLaren environment, Alonso and Carlos and, Daniel, even though unfortunately didn't work out, we had a great relationship. So I think driver management is one of our strengths. And yeah, of course, they want to beat each other. Right now, they know pushing each other is going to push the team forward. But for sure, there's going to be a day, hopefully sooner rather than later, that they're running 1-2, and whoever's in second is going to want to be in first. And they're very clean. They've raced each other hard this year, and it's been clean. It's been hard. It does make you nervous, but they're professionals. They both have a long way to go in their career, so I'm not anticipating anything silly to happen. And if it does happen, you tackle it right away. You don't let it bubble up. I think when we've seen driver issues before, not at McLaren recently, but just down the grid, you see these troubles bubbling up, and you kind of question why the teams don't step in earlier. It's kind of like watching two dogs starting to growl at each other on the playground. A fight's about ready to happen, but yeah, you sit there and just watch.
This year you finished fourth in the Constructors' Championship. What does that mean to McLaren, and how significant is it in the broader picture? Because we always talk about the Drivers' Championship. We all talk Max Verstappen, he dominated, and all these greats across the years. But the Constructors' Championship, I guess, to you, is the more important one because that's where the prize money is paid out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's from a team perspective, that's what's most important. We want to win the Constructors, and we want to finish first and second. And we kind of don't care who finishes first and who finishes second. Obviously, the drivers do, but you race as a team. But of course, when we looked at the last race of the year, we weren't in a position to do it, but we did have a discussion internally that if we could help Lando without compromising Oscar to get fourth in the championship instead of sixth, depending on how they were running, we would have done that. Oscar was ready to play ball, but the race didn't play out in that way. It was a shame to have Lando finish sixth, by a couple points.
You've talked drivers there, and we've talked some of the personnel and so on. We know there's great facilities at McLaren. What do you think you need now to be in a regular position for every round of the championship to be going toe-to-toe, say, with a Red Bull?
Just a little bit more time. We have our wind tunnel now, but we've just started using it. The 24 car was started in the old wind tunnel, so we won't have a full benefit from the wind tunnel until 25. We're in our new simulator. Again, we started simulation just recently. So, and then we have, in addition to this great team, two other people, David Sanchez, who's joining us from Ferrari, and Rob Marshall joining us from Red Bull, that don't start till January. So they'll get their hands on the car then, which means we'll see some of their influence on the upgrade. So we kind of have everything we need now, but 24 is still a bit of a hybrid year, that while January 2nd, I've got everything that we need, you really needed it June 2nd if it was going to be full impact in 24. So I think 24 is, a little bit of a hybrid year for us, but no excuses. We have the desire to be winning races, but it's going to be 25 where we can sit there and say everything in 25 has been done with our full capacity of technology and people, and that's not that far away. So, but we had 6 seconds this year. We'd like to think we can convert some of those to wins next year.
What's the trick then next year? Sitting here at the end of 2023, reflecting on a really strong season, right on that precipice, as you say, of taking race wins. You've got that behemoth that is Red Bull just up the road. How do you tackle that in 24 realistically, knowing that you've got all these tools coming on?
Yeah, I think we just keep doing what we're doing. We can only control what we can control, and that's our racing team. We like what we're seeing in the the wind tunnel in CFD at the moment. So we feel like we're going to take a step forward next year. How much the great mystery on Red Bull is, when did they turn off the development of their car this year to focus on next year? And I think the answer is probably pretty early. So we'll just have to wait and see how much Adrian Newey magic comes out of the oven, so to speak, next year to see where we are. And at the same time, Mercedes, Ferrari, these teams have everything they need, and they're great teams. And I wouldn't be surprised if we were sitting here and all of a sudden Mercedes was back to Lewis winning his 8th championship. So it's very, very tough and competitive now. Even the 9th place team, AlphaTauri, ran 5th, 6th in Abu Dhabi. So I don't think you can rule anybody out this time of the year.
Zach, can we just take what you've said there and maybe extend the conversation a little bit then on that whole notion of competitiveness? Do you feel then, like, broadly speaking, the cost cap is working?
Yeah, I think it's been great. On one end, with one driver, we've never had a less competitive Formula One. Thank you, Max. Hats off. Behind Max, it's the most competitive I've ever seen Formula One. It's the first time in the history of Formula One you've had 5 teams with 7 podiums or more. You have teams that are 9th and 10th in the championship, Haas, AlphaTauri, making it into Q3 on a, say regular basis, but enough. So, and in the good old days of Formula One, the teams that are at the back of the grid were 3 seconds off. The entire grid is now covered by a second. So I don't think Formula One's ever been more competitive. I think it's going to get even more competitive. I think you got Max and that RB19 working their magic, which is making the race at the front a little more predictable than we'd all like to be. But behind that, look at us. We were 9th quickest, ended up 2nd quickest at the end of the year. You had Aston Martin, who was 2nd quickest, and then kind of dropped to 5th quickest, and then made a comeback. The teams were amazing. So I think the sport's massively competitive. And I think once some of us catch this Max guy, Formula One's going to be unlike anything we've seen before.
I reckon this Max guy might have a bit of a future in Formula One. Just watch out for that name. Just this, on the cost cap, we're a couple of years into it now. Are there any unexpected outcomes from it that you've noticed? Are there any loopholes that perhaps need to be tidied up?
Yeah, there are, and I think that's to be expected, and they are being closed. There was a TD45 which came out, which was a technical directive that we're closing some loopholes. There's another loophole on reporting companies that will be closed next year. So it's not perfect, but I would definitely take it from where we came from, which was spending out of control. And then you have some teams being clever. My biggest concern is the collaboration amongst a few teams. I think that's a real risk to Formula One. I think it's not in the spirit of what Formula One is about, which is 10 independent teams. I'd like to see us get rid of sharing gearboxes, because as soon as you share gearboxes, you can, effectively know the rear end of someone else's car. So I think we need to get rid of all transferable parts, every team be independent, because that is a risk that I'm not happy with at the moment.
We'll move into IndyCar shortly, but just while we're sort of in the bridging period here, Pato Award was obviously in Abu Dhabi, did FP1, ran alongside Oscar in the post-season testing and so on. Perhaps it might be worth for our audience, Zach, if you don't mind, just how he fits into the Formula One program and how it will either complement or work with his IndyCar program.
Yeah, absolutely. He did a fantastic job. He, first and foremost, we want him or one of our other drivers to win us the Indy 500 and the IndyCar championship. But, you need a reserve driver. Things happen, right? We've seen drivers get COVID and appendicitis and get, concussions and things of that nature. So, we have him on standby and ready to go if we needed a driver. Obviously, you have to do free practice twice. So he's, our IndyCar driver and our Formula One driver that should an opportunity arise, we wouldn't hesitate to call on him because he's unbelievably fast driver. I think his experience in Formula One will make him an even better IndyCar driver. I think the more experience you get, the better. and he's really matured nicely and is great to work with. A big personality in IndyCar.
Very well media trained in my experience as well. You've definitely got him on point there. With the IndyCar team, I don't know if this is deliberate or not, but it sort of mirrors the Formula One team in that you've got Pato and then you've got David Maluskis there as well. Two young drivers, much like you've got, I guess, with Lando and Oscar in Formula One.
Yeah, I think there's a way McLaren Racing goes racing. We're very focused on our drivers. That's the most important, or certainly top of the list. If you're going to win in racing, you need the best drivers you can get. So that's a huge focus for us. I think we take risks, whether that risk is taking Fernando Alonso out of Monaco and going to Indy, or whether that's taking young drivers like Pato and Lando and Oscar and now David Malukas. I think we're comfortable in identifying young talent, and then commercially and our fans, very important to us. We have a awesome corporate supporter base and fan base, and so you need drivers that can get the job done on and off the track.
Just to your point as well on the Formula One side before about good people in key places, it appears that you've done that in IndyCar as well. I mean, if you look at Gavin Ward in a technical director sense there, it's as though you have those pillars in place in order to have that team going head-to-head with a Penske, with an Andretti and so on.
Yeah, we're very, as you would imagine, and as is every other team, very performance-focused. So, the way we run the Formula One team, the way we run the IndyCar team, we let the team bosses really focus on the performance of the team. And we kind of, the commercial side of the sport is something that I'm very comfortable with. So we kind of ring fence that as a supporting system. So I don't want Andrea or Gavin worrying too much about our partners. I want them to focus on performance. And then I've got a marketing team about 175 strong, led by Louise, Nick, and Matt, who do a fantastic job of looking after all of our partners. So it's kind of, they're the fuel. They develop the fuel. They put the high octane in the car, and then Andrea, Gavin, and Ian, they go racing.
With the high octane in the car for next year in IndyCar, what's realistic? What's the target for McLaren in 2024?
It definitely needs to be going for the championship in the Indy 500. I think we've been in a position to win the championship the last couple of years. We've been in a position to win the Indy 500 the last couple of years. So unlike Formula One, where we've kind of been on this journey of rebuilding, we have everything we need now. We just need to close the deal. And last year, I think we had two opportunities to win the Indy 500, and we didn't get it done. The year before, we were close. We were outside turn one last lap, but Pato did the right thing and tucked in, because I don't think two would have made it through the corner. So, we've been at one pass away for the last couple of years from winning the 500. I'd like to see us close the deal there. And, Pato in particular has been in the top 5 going into the last race with the chance for the championship 2 of the last 3 years. So, I was reviewing our DNFs, if you'd like, and our pace has been great. We've had more DNFs than the two teams that have beat us. So to a certain extent, we kind of beat ourselves a little bit. So that's what we need to change going into next year.
I don't think this will take much arm twisting, but we haven't got much time left. But we would love to talk a little supercars with you, if you don't mind, and Walkinshaw Andretti United. Firstly, a broad overview from your perspective, Zach, on how you felt the 2023 season was. A lot of off-track discussion around parity and so on was a big topic with those new Gen 3 cars coming in. But obviously, Chaz finishing in the top 4 in the championship, so there are some positives there.
Yeah, for sure there's positives, within our own team. I think Chaz is a spectacular driver. We're excited for next year. Massively disappointed in the lack of parity. And I think it was so obvious that it was just disappointing that it wasn't addressed. I don't think it's good for the sport. I think it was blatantly obvious that things were out of balance. And I'm just surprised that they didn't tackle it. let's hope that things are more of equal playing foot, because Chaz needs to be competing for the championship, but he needs to be in a position to have the equipment underneath them. The equipment's great, just the lack of parity is not. So we're excited for next year. I'll be Australia. I'm trying for the Grand Prix, of course, trying to figure out one other to go to. I missed Bathurst this year. I do watch them all on Superview at Dark 30 here in England. The racing's awesome. The series is spectacular, and I drove my Aussie V8 Bathurst winner at Laguna a year or two ago. So I love the series. Great partnership with Ryan Walkinshaw and Michael Andretti. It's something I'm very proud of. I know everyone talks about the Triple Crown. I think it's the Big Four, because I think you got to throw Bathurst in there. So that trophy is sitting right over there. One of the more proud trophies I've had over the years.
They are about to do some important testing offshore in relation to wind tunnel and engine work and so on. By chance, did Supercars approach you and ask about either contacts or some of the infrastructure that you've had, and maybe did they consider talking to you?
Not a word, which again I think is a bit disappointing. That these issues are sometimes hard to tackle, and you should reach out to people. Of course, anytime you're on the receiving end of not being the beneficiary, of course, it always appears that you moan, but I think the results kind of speak for themselves, right? I don't think you can go down the win list by manufacturer, and I don't think you need to be around motorsports very long to go, ooh, that seems pretty lopsided. So unfortunately, no one reached out to us. I've got great friends at Ford. They were frustrated. We spoke about it. And I know Ryan and Bruce, they're not shy. And so they worked on it, and we just didn't get to where we needed to this year, but let's hope next year's a new year and we can get it right.
Next year's your 7th year with Walkinshaw Andretti United in that partnership. How's that all been working? Is it working the way that you thought it would when you set that up, or have there been any changes to the way you're working together?
I would say even better, because it's been pure enjoyment. And sometimes owning a racing team comes with some headaches every once in a while. And I got to say, between Bruce and Carl, who run the team, they've made it pretty headache free for us. So we're in a position where we're here to help and contribute when they ask, but they've done a great job leading the team, and they've kept all headaches off my desk, which is great, because I've got enough of those through the various activities that we have, that, this for me is intended to be fun and enjoyable, because I love racing, and they've been able to keep it fun and enjoyable for me. So hats off to them.
You have been fabulous with your time. It's meant to be the off season. I think you want to get back on the tools and do whatever work you're doing there. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Yeah.
And all the very best for 2024.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, and have a great holiday, and we'll see you in the new year.
You could be a winner each episode of the Summer Grill. KTM are giving you the chance to win a bar stool, a mug, and this race-inspired clock as well. So there's more good reasons to tune in and hear from some of the stars of world motorsport here as a part of the KTM Summer Grill. All you got to do is click on the link below, fill in your details, and you could be in the running to win.